Okay. One Piece chapter 1130 blind reaction. And gotta say, I was already kind of feeling that this is gonna be good, like this arc in general, but it kind of made me realize as I was going through this chapter that I just have a bias towards the East Blue crew members. Like, I like all the Straw Hats in general, but this chapter, like just seeing the East Blue characters together, you got Chopper there, so you can't necessarily say East Blue, but just seeing all these characters together, kind of doing their own thing, it made me realize how much I enjoyed One Piece pre-time skip, in particular pre-Grand Line. Like, oh my God, like there was so much comedic gold here. But let me back up because I don't want to get stuck on that for too long. So first and foremost, the world building in this, absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts that Elbaf has all these different temperatures to it or whatnot. Because like I didn't see snow on Block Island or in that building block Lego land that they're in. Now we got snow and we're seeing like just how a simple bridge looks like it's like a mass desert to the Straw Hats because of how long it is. Like for them, that's like a multi-day journey, I would argue. But for those giants, it's just a few moments. And I think I got a new favorite top 5 One Piece girl. Like Gerd, I think that's how you say her name. Oh my God, yo, I fell in love with that fucking design, man. I understand, Sanji. I would have turned simp right there my damn self, man. I was like, oh, wait, who is this? My God. Holy. Okay, so we open up this chapter. Like, if you can't tell, man, like, this is what I mean, man. Like, One Piece, it makes me feel like a little kid in all the right ways, man. Like, I fucking love this manga. So we open up this chapter, and we get some pretty important news here. So there's a connection with Dorian Brogy and the guy that ended up capturing the Straw Hats. And basically they tell the remaining crew members, that'd be Jinbe and Franky and Nico Robin and Brook, like, hey fam, we know where the Straw Hats are, no need to worry. And we also find out that they're low on food, which is like, I wonder how that's going to go. I mean, they're at sea, so they could obviously catch something, but it's like, man, low-key makes me wonder if Luffy ate them out of all the food. It wouldn't put me past it, but that's a lot of fucking food even for somebody as small as Luffy. But basically, they make the agreement, we're just going to head to Elbaf because we're going to run into each other at some point. And so that's where he's transitioned over, and we get Luffy, and he's in full adventure mode. Totally to be expected, just given Luffy's character. And as Luffy is looking and it's super cold and everything, we get Nami kind of laying the law of the land, saying it's very vast. It feels like it is making me dizzy. And I like that we're seeing the perspective of how massive a land of giants is from the perspective of the Straw Hats and just the size difference. Because in a lot of ways, it makes the entire One Piece world, if you thought that it wasn't necessarily huge before, a island strictly for giants that is so big that even the Straw Hats, like this is probably like the size of multiple islands in the East Blue, just kind of put together. Like it is insane how big the One Piece world is. And what I also like about this is that as they start going across the bridge, that's where we get the doctor of the new giant pirates, Gerd, which, Jesus Christ, mwah. From the double pigtail braids to just the outfit, like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, I always wondered how somebody could fuck Big Mom. Like, I get it now. Yeah, I had to fucking go there. I'm sorry. I had to go there. I understand now, man. Like, I get lost in that motherfucker. Oh, shit. Yo, I might need to cut that shit out, man. I might need to cut that out. That's, you know, this is a reaction. I'm going to keep that shit in there, man. Because I've said some worse shit in the many years I've been going through One Piece, man. But, yo, Jesus Christ. So that's where you get Gerd, and she's kind of talking about, like, you know, Loki's not the true shame of Elbaf. It's really Hajrudin. or Hajrudin. I don't know how to pronounce that fucking name. I'm gonna call him Bob. And somebody let me know down in the comment section, has the anime animated this? So I'm gonna look up how it's pronounced. I don't want to like look up anything on Google, YouTube, because I'm sincerely doing these as blind reactions, so I don't want to be spoiled. So it's gonna be like weird. Like somebody type, I'm gonna read the comments for this one because I try to stay out the comment section just in case somebody says something that might spoil me on future events. But somebody type out like, how do you say the name so I can see how to pronounce it? I'm gonna be recording up to 1,134, and then I'm waiting for another 5 set of thumbnails to do. We're getting very close to catching up. I do know that from looking at Biz Media's website. So somebody type that down and just add in any other names that you think I might fuck up, because I have fucked up a lot of names. All right, man. So that's where we get the other update where as they start talking, they start saying like, you know, it looks like he was able to catch something with that bird of his or that crow. And that's where Goldberg, I can say that name because like wrestling name, Goldberg, Bill Goldberg, I can say that. That's where Goldberg, the cook of the pirates, which I kind of see Otis doing there. The cook of the new giant pirates. He's sitting there and he's like, you know, intruders had to be caught. And as this is going on, the rest of the Straw Hats, they're smartly trying to hide because they're in a brand new place. And you have to assume that everybody you run into, they're going to be your enemies. Like that's the smart thing to do until you get a proper lay of the land. And so as they're hiding, Luffy is like, oh, hell no. Hey, you guys, and then that's where Nami's got to shut this dude's mouth up. And Sanji's turned into a super simp. And he's like, I didn't know that giants were this beautiful. And it makes sense to a degree. Because like, if you think about Sanji's experience with giants before, what has he seen? He has seen Big Mom. Big Mom is the One Piece version of expired milk. Like the expired milk that's like super clumpy. So for Sanji, of course. And like he's seen Dory and Brogy. So it's like, I understand Sanji going, holy shit, I didn't know giants were this cute. Motherfucker, I didn't know it either. Like I seen photos of prime Big Mom, but it's like that was prime Big Mom. So it's like, as soon as he's doing this, that's when Usopp is like, oh, hold up. We're here in Elbaf. They said the name, and you know, Usopp, this has been a long time coming for him. And they get so loud that Goldberg and Gerd, they just turn around and they're looking and they're like, did I hear things? Did I imagine that? And Goldberg's like, yeah, you had to have imagined it. But when I saw this, like my immediate reaction, it immediately shifted to Sanji. And not just because you got Gerd there and Sanji is a simp, but more so you got Goldberg there. And my reasoning for that is I kind of low-key want to see Sanji pick up some cooking tips from Goldberg. Like, I know that's like odd, but like I really want to see Sanji get in the kitchen with Goldberg and like pick up some tips, man. Like, I don't know why that is. Like, ever since we had what happened in Cake Island, I've just been very fascinated. I've wanted to see Sanji interact with more cooks from other crews. Like, I know that seems weird because that's not necessarily what you read One Piece for, but that's been something I've been reading One Piece specifically for ever since Cake Island when it comes to Sanji's character. I have like a Google spreadsheet that I keep with different things in the columns I want to see Straw Hats do, and that's something I've really wanted to see with Sanji. I know I've gotten off track here, so let me back up and get back on track. So as this is happening, the rest of the Straw Hats are walking across the bridge. Sanji's like, oh, it's okay, Nami. I used to walk on ropes to balance all the time. I'm good at this. Nami is riding on top of Chopper. Usopp and Zoro, they're doing their thing. Luffy is on top of the ropes, and it's like, dummy, like you could slip. But like Luffy, that's in character form. Like Luffy gives zero fucks. And when he says, did you feel that? Something's tingling. At first, I'm like, hockey, and then I remember, oh, wait a second. Like, yeah, maybe that's hockey, maybe that's observation hockey or whatever, but it's like, at the same time, it makes sense because he was training with Rayleigh on that island and had all those wild animals. And then just in his childhood, like Garp would just drop that little motherfucker off in the forest. I'm like, okay, bitch, survive. I know you got it in you. Like, so it's like, if anybody's in tune, it's him. And then, just Oda being a Dragon Ball fan, I expect Luffy to be the one that goes adventure. Because, like, Luffy, out of any character that's been inspired by Son Goku, is the spitting image of him. Like, and I think that's part of why I gravitate towards One Piece in this way. When I say that it takes me back to feeling like a little kid. Because, like, one of the first anime I ever got into was Dragon Ball. One of the first manga I ever read was Dragon Ball. And so, I went through Z first, and I went back into Dragon Ball as that got released. But it's one of those things, like, I've always adored Kid Goku. Like, from 12 to 16, I love that version of Goku, the little pint-sized one. And so I said to say this, like, Luffy checks off a lot of those boxes. And so I did like how Luffy's like, you guys go on ahead. I'm going to go explore. Because, like, that's completely in character for him. And while the rest of the Straw Hat's like, what are you doing, Luffy, here? And Usopp is like, I got to be brave now. I like that Luffy did this because one thing I've kind of noticed when each of the Straw Hats go to their islands, especially, and I'm going right back to what we had with early One Piece, pre-time skip. The thing I started noticing when I was going through One Piece and reading it for the first time, and I'm still reading it, but, back when I first got to those chapters, I was like, Sanji always manages to disappear whenever they get onto a new island. Like, he kind of goes off and does his own thing. And it always felt like it was reconnaissance to a degree. And Sanji would move the plot forward in that kind of way. And Luffy would always move the plot forward because Luffy would always do some dumb shit. And at first, my knee-jerk reaction here was like, Luffy is going to go find some wolves, beat them up, and then come back with food for Sanji to cook. And then my second thought right after that was like, no, this is building towards something. This is building towards something because Oda is approaching the end game. And Luffy, in the last arc, ran across that big EMET, that big giant weapon that belonged to Joy Boy. So I was like, okay, this got to be another Joy Boy connection. This is what this has got to be. And so I was very curious to see where it went. I was not expecting Oda to give us that payoff in this chapter. But so we then shift over and we get an update and we see the propaganda machine, the World Economic Journal, right back at it again. And so basically they're laying the whole egghead thing at Luffy's feet, but they've also put Dory and Brogy there. They've inflated their bounties. Nico Robin is taking the logical approach of like, yeah, of course, inflation happens. And it's like, I read that and like my knee-jerk reaction is like, yeah, bitch, inflation happens. I'm getting killed in real life. But like, I like the logical explanation on that because like, as Nico Robin, you expect that. But she reads the other part. And then they start pointing out extra stuff. And I'm going, holy shit. Now I got questions. And so she talks about how they said that Dory and Brogy basically helped Luffy and that Luffy was the one who killed Vegapunk, and you got the Vegapunk clone sitting there like, oh my God, he killed me, did he? And she's laughing, and that's where Franky's like, no, you dumb bitch. And I'm saying bitch loosely. So any female viewers that are watching this, don't get offended. But, basically as that's happening, and he's saying that, Luffy actually was trying to protect you, Brook is like, when was this photo taken? And you got Jinbe, telling us like, well, they have photographers everywhere because people pay good money. But Nico Robin is the one that catches what Brook spotted, which is the mark on his arm. And everyone's like, I've just never seen it. And they start saying, well, when he gets in that Gear 5 form, he's so free flow moving. And she talks about how the hand is blurred, but the mark is crystal clear. And so my first thing when she said, I caught the mark, I'm gonna get to that in a second. But when she said the hand was blurred, my thought was, damn, they got Photoshop or some shit in One Piece. That's what I thought. Cause like if you do bad Photoshop, you can see shit like that. But then when I saw the X mark, when they first showed it, I'm like, that's some fucking alabaster. because like when they had the shit going on, I think it was with Mr. Two, and you had it where, they wanted to make sure that they could spot the real crew members. So from Vivi onward, they just put the mark on their hands. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's a callback. And I might be wrong, and this is kind of me theory crafting now, but we saw Vivi getting pissed off at Morgan's. And I kind of feel like Vivi behind Morgan's back, because that photo is clearly doctored. I feel like she added that X on there specifically as a message to the Straw Hats. And I'm looking at that specifically because Franky says that's a strange detail to focus on. And then Nico Robin is like, it just seems familiar to me. And my thought is going, of course it should feel familiar, because that goes back to when you were about to join the Straw Hats. And so I like how Oda hit that, because a lesser mangaka would have had that on one panel. That ain't what he does. In the same panel, he has one of the giants, Doria Brogi. He has them basically say, amazing to think that Straw Hat is considered equals at red hair now. And having that sandwich right there in that panel, the reason why that is so smart is everyone's going to focus on that part. And if you look at it, and I don't know if like the Japanese manga did this, and maybe this is something only Viz Media did, but they have the red hair, they have that bolded. And so anytime you have stuff bolded, people just kind of focus in on that. And we know red hair means Shanks or whatever, but it's one of those things where I feel like Oda is intentionally trying to bury that, because like the 3 other panels before this were giving all this focus to the X. And right when Nico Robin says it seems familiar, he sandwiches that in there. So I like that. I see what Oda's doing here. If we get Vivi able to send messages to the Straw Hats through the World Economic Journal, that's a chef's kiss right there. Now, the next thing we get here is Dory and Brogy. They start talking, and they're like, we had a youngster on the crew named Hajrudin, and he's a follower of you guys now, and he's the son of a king, and he wanted to come get you guys too, but there was trouble back in Elbaf. And then we start learning about what happened with Loki and like the bloodline, etc. And so I like this. Like, I like this a lot. Like, because in some kind of way, it reminds me loosely of Alabasta. Not the plot line, but now we're kind of dealing with the royalty, and looks like there's trouble in Paradise. I like this. Obviously, Alabasta is not the only kingdom that has had, political trouble, but that's where my mind went, especially because of the Vivi stuff. And so basically, we learned that the king had another child, and the child is called the Cursed Prince, Loki, and basically he committed all types of evil acts. He was sentenced to crucifixion, and it's because he wanted the legendary devil fruit that's passed down through the Elbaf royal line. And that led to him killing his father, King Harold, and he ate the fruit. And basically they're like, when Loki is unleashed, if it ever happens, it's going to bring the world to ruin. He's the shame of Elbaf. And then that's where we see that Luffy has run into Loki. And I like the black horns. And I like how Luffy's like, I'm the man that's going to be the king of the pirates, bitch. And then Loki's like king. He kind of focuses in on it. And he tells Luffy, you're here in Elbaf, the kingdom of warriors, the most powerful nation in the world. And he says that I am the sun god who brings the world to an end. And so it makes me wonder, because like Luffy has the Madonika devil fruit, and like Luffy has the Joy Boy connection. Makes me wonder if there was something opposite of Joy Boy back in the day, and if maybe that is the devil fruit that Loki had. It kind of kills, and maybe this is a subversion, but it kind of kills some of the hope I had that Blackbeard and his devil fruit was going to be the opposite of Luffy's, because it just contrasts black and white, dark and light. But they're kind of building Loki up to be a man. And, I kind of wonder if there's something else to Loki. Because if they're trying to build him up to be, and maybe I'm kind of stumbling for a second. If they're trying to build him up to be this big badass, it does make me wonder if there's something else going on here. You know, that's kind of my thought. I feel like Loki, there's more to the story here. I feel like there's more to the story because we're getting the perspective of the others. In the same chapter, we got the little weasel Morgans in there, and we got Vivi sending out potentially coded messages to the Straw Hats. So that's my chapter question to you guys. Do you guys think, do you guys think that Loki is going to be the opposite of Luffy, or is that reserved for Blackbeard? And also, if it's not been revealed in the manga yet, because I'm going to read the comments on this, so please do not spoil. But has it been revealed? Is it Vivi sending those messages through the World Economic Journal? Is this the only one that we got, or is there more? But, so always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.